Okay, I'm going to show you guys my setup on how I got a 980 to work with a MacBook Pro. You might have seen my other video, you might not have, where I showed how to use the 750 Ti with it. And there's a couple questions that were asked that I'm going to answer in this video probably right now. So essentially, first off, to make this work, to get a graphics card to work with a MacBook Pro, you will need one of these Thunderbolt exclosures that hold PCI Express cards. Now this one obviously says right there that it, no, I'm not really sure where it says it. It says somewhere on here that it does not work with, oh, it's on the back. It says on here that it does not work with graphics cards. Now, I believe they say that because it's a power issue, but it does work with graphics cards. Yeah, I guess they're the specs if you guys wanted to take a look at them. So you need to get yourself one of those. That was like 220 bucks. I picked it up for on eBay. Wasn't that bad. Essentially, the case will work for cards like this. If you have a bigger card, you're just going to buy it for the board that's inside of it because you can't actually buy that circuit board. Okay. Now, one of the questions that was asked was, can I build the circuit board? Well, that is where the Thunderbolt is converted to the PCIe. That's not anything you're going to build. It's a full circuit board. It's got a whole bunch of components in it to figure out and compute information like they do. So, when you're using a card like this in here, you will actually need more power. The stock box only has 25 watts of power. So the easiest way to do it is to take the cable, like I showed in the last video, strip the ends off with the outside being negative and the inside being positive, and plugging into a power supply or like a bench power supply running at 12.8 volts. That is how you can get more power out of it. Or if you read on the forums, there's a power supply, I think maybe HP or Dell, I can't remember, one of the two makes, that actually supplies enough power to the case, plugs right in, has one of these connectors on it, and you can set it up in the case and it'll work. If you want to see that setup, you can go check out my other video I have on my channel. Now, someone else asked if the power could go through a Thunderbolt cable. No. No power can go through the Thunderbolt cable, and you have to have external power. And I also believe the same person asked if you could, what was the difference between Thunderbolt 2 and Thunderbolt 3? None. There are no Thunderbolt 3 PCI Express exclosures yet, so there would be no benefit until they start producing them. Even still, I believe this board's actually limited to 5 gig a second, which is only a quarter of what Thunderbolt can actually handle. I know some people say Thunderbolt can do 20 gigs, some people say it can do 16. Regardless, you're not going to get anywhere close to that. Okay, so to start off with, to get this big card to fit, you don't really want to use the board that's on here because there's no good way to mount it. And even still, the back of the actual video card itself will get so hot it'll melt these wires. And that was a problem everyone was having because these wires will literally sit on the back of the card. To get around that, you get a PCI Express extension cable, 16X, and it just plugs right in to both sides. And you can see I clipped it. Right now I just have this graphics card actually sitting on the outside of the box until I get a case. I'm probably just going to get a case for a micro, I think they're called ITX boards. I can't think of that. It's that new small motherboard. I'm going to get a case that fits a full-size graphics card. I'm just going to put the graphics card in. I'm going to put all this where the motherboard would normally be. And I'm going to put the power supply in the inside. So you got to get this. And these, you want to get a powered one. Make sure you get a powered one, because then you don't actually need to use the power cable that's on here. You can plug this. Actually, I have this wired up to an old cable from a power supply for a computer. This one. I clipped one of the wires off and I wired it straight in. I got this on eBay for 36 bucks, so that wasn't too bad. Then you plug that in. This will backfeed power to power this, and it'll feed the 75 watts needed by this side of the card. Then up top we have two more power cables off a power supply. One's 8-pin, this one's 8-pin, this one's 6-pin, that run back and are just all plugged into the positive and negative on this power supply from eBay. It's a 360 watt 12 volt power supply. It also has a variable adjustment. You're going to want to leave it at 12.8 volts because that's closest replicates a real power supply in a computer. And there's just a little screw there actually that you can twist. It's also pretty dangerous. Those are 110 volt lines that are exposed, so you have to be careful sometimes around these. All right. And so we get this plugged in, that plugged into there, and then we can plug our HDMI into the card itself. I wouldn't ever recommend putting your card literally on the back of a metal box, but this card actually has a back plate on it. It's a Asus Strix, I believe they call it, 980. Yeah, pretty sure that's what it's called. It's got a back plate, so it's pretty well safe. You probably still shouldn't do it, but I'm not gonna worry too much about it right now. All right, and then you have the Thunderbolt, so you guys can actually see that this is plugged in, so you don't think I'm bullshitting. Thunderbolt into the Mac, and we just have it plugged into the TV. So, actually, I'll show you this because I already know someone's gonna say this is BS. We have the cable runs into the TV, and it is obviously the only cable plugged into the TV. So we are going to fire up the Mac into Windows because I actually don't know how to do this on the Mac side. It's a lot more work. You know, I already messed up. Turn this off. We need to plug it in first. This works with Windows 10. I have not tried it with Windows 7 because when I did, it didn't work. So I got rid of Windows 7 and went right to Windows 10, and I had no more problems. So we powered it up. It has power. I don't know where the LED is. Oh, you can see it there. And then, now we can fire this up, and you can see it all turns on. That power supply is really noisy, by the way. That might be a concern for some people. Now we're having booting issues. Alright. Give it a second. Oh, there it goes. Alright. Just gonna hop into Windows. You see it's obviously Windows. It's probably gonna be a 15-minute or so video, so you guys can just skip along. I'm trying to think of something else somebody asked that I can answer right now. I think I pretty much got it all. Okay, so we have it fired up on the TV. It's logging in. Notice that the actual screen on the laptop does not turn on. I believe there's something called Optimus, maybe? I was reading about in the forums where you can actually use the external graphics card for backfeeding to the Mac. Oh, but I haven't got that set up yet. I'm just using it with an external screen. That's how I prefer it. Okay, so as you can see, it's working. Well, typical Windows. Okay, so as we can see here, we do have the 750 and the 980. I just leave it set to rest of the settings in the entire computer set to auto. And, you know, I guess that's the demonstration purposes for this video. I will be making a video back to back in a few minutes of this playing GTA 5.